Welcome, 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 Hattiesburg, and a pleasant day to all our listeners. This is Abby, your host for Southern Miss Today on Southern Miss Radio. I'm here to bring you updates, news, and more from our community. To add to all the excitement today, we have Mississippi Moments with Helen Rain and a news wrap with Dr. Matthew Casey to ensure you're up to date on all the hottest topics. And guess what? We have a very special guest for you today, Vanessa Molden. You definitely want to stay tuned for what she has to share with us today. But before we jump into all the fun, here's a quick message from our sponsor. So hang tight, we'll be right back with more Southern Miss Today.
Sponsorship comes from Hub City Spokes. Hub City Spokes publishes the Pine Belt News, Pine Belt Sports, Signature Magazine, and Here's Hattiesburg. HubCitySpokes.com is the destination for news and sports in the Pine Belt, as well as a look at the lifestyle of the people in the Pine Belt and beyond. Hub City Spokes, a proud Southern Miss Radio supporter.
In Southeast Mississippi, we stand united for the most vulnerable in our community. Become a game changer and volunteer by calling United Way of Southeast Mississippi at 601-545-7141. We have one life. To live better, we must live united.
Welcome back. In campus news, the Southern Miss Nurse Anesthesia Cohort receives a 100% pass rate on National Certification Exam. The University of Southern Mississippi College of Nursing and Health Professions Nurse Anesthesia Doctoral Program is producing graduates ready for a career as a certified registered nurse anesthetist. All 23 graduates in the program December 2024 cohort received a 100% pass rate on the National Certification Exam. Since 2012, the three-year program has provided clinical experience across state to each cohort. With 197 graduates to date, Dr. Story, CNHP Dean, sees the commitment and rigorous steps taken to provide Mississippi with dedicated nurse anesthetists. The cohort begins their program in January 2022 with rigorous courses and hands-on training that prepared them for the NCE. The exam tests the knowledge and skills of each student studying to become a CRNA. Mary Jane Collins, Nurse Anesthesia Program Coordinator, is thankful for the university's support in shaping future leaders in anesthesia care. Also in campus news, the Southern Miss School of Leadership welcomes students to experience business casually for career advice, networking opportunities. The University of Southern Mississippi School of Leadership, along with local business professionals, gathered at the third annual Experience Business Casually event held Tuesday on the Golf Park campus. Students networked with leaders from the business community and received advice and tips on topics to help them get workforce ready, including interview strategies, the 60-second elevator pitch, the art of small talk, and more. Students from area community colleges and high schools also attended. Dr. Jacob Breland, director of the School of Leadership, was excited to collaborate with local schools and offer an event that can prepare students to be ready for business. Amy Yeed, Assistant Dean of Professional Development and Career Success, who coordinated the program on the Hattiesburg campus for several years, expressed the value of the event. In Hattiesburg news, an Oak Grove High School student and member of a scout troop is reaching out to help college students from across the globe. Neil Bryan is giving dozens of hygiene bags to Hub City Wesley at the University of Southern Mississippi to be distributed to international students attending the university. The bags with items like shampoo and toothpaste were donated and packed by competitors in a video gaming tournament Saturday at Parkway Heights, United Methodist Church. That tournament was organized by Brian and will help him in attaining the rank of Eagle Scout. More than 100 bags were packed. Davis said they will be distributing to international students as part of a special presentation at Hub City Wesley. In Mississippi news, officials with the Mississippi Emergency Management Agency, MEMA, reported damages and power outages from the storm system that moved across the state on February 15th through 16th, 2025. According to MEMA, no injuries have been reported to the agency. As of 8:30 a.m. on Sunday, February 16th, there were 41,000 power outages across the state. Energy Mississippi reported 16,032 customers were without power, and Dixie Electric reported more than 6,600 outages. In Rankin County, a tree fell on a home on Twin Oaks Drive in Florence. 2 people were inside the home at the time of the incident. They were not injured. That was your news update from Southern Miss Today. We'll have the latest on sports and weather, so stay tuned. We'll be back after a word from our sponsors.
Sponsorship comes from American Graphics. Located at 8 Commercial Warehouse Drive in Hattiesburg, American Graphics provides custom screen printing and embroidery. They can be reached by phone at 601-602-2277. And the website is goamericangraphics.com. American Graphics, printing at its finest.
Estos son los sonidos de una cena que casi no sucedió. Es una cena servida gracias a personas como tú. Debido a la crisis actual, 50 millones de personas pueden vivir con hambre este año. Feeding America está ayudando a los que más lo necesitan. Y si quieres, tú puedes ayudar también. Visita feedingamerica.org/en-español. Patrocinado por el Ad Council y Feeding America, la fuerza de 200 bancos de alimentos.
Welcome back with our action-packed sports segment. Let's dive into the latest scores, highlights, and sports. Get your jerseys on because it's game time. Today, Monday, February 17th, the women's golf team will be at the Windance Country Club through Tuesday, February 18th. On Tuesday, February 18th, the baseball team will be playing against Mississippi State. On Wednesday, February 19th, the softball team will be playing against Jackson State, and the women's basketball team will be playing against South Alabama. On Thursday, February 20th, the men's basketball team will be playing against Coastal Carolina. On Friday, February 21st, the softball team will be playing against Nichols. The women's tennis team will be playing against Southeastern. The beach volleyball team will be playing at the Florida Gulf Coast and against North Alabama. The baseball team will be playing against Louisiana Tech, and the softball team will be playing against LSU. On Saturday, February 22nd, the softball team will be playing against Penn State. The women's basketball team will be playing against Texas State. The baseball team will be playing against Louisiana Tech. The beach volleyball team will be playing against Florida State. And the softball team will be playing against LSU. The beach volleyball team will be playing against LSU. The men's baseball team will be playing against the Raging Cajuns. And finally, the beach volleyball team will be playing against Spring Hill. Head to southernmiss.com to keep up with all the Golden Eagles sports activities. As for weather today, look for a low of 34 with a low chance of rain and a high of 55. The feels like for today is 27 to 58 degrees. Tomorrow, look for a low of 36 and a high of 59 with a medium chance of rain. Tomorrow's feels like is 34 to 56 degrees. Up next, we have Mississippi Moments, produced by the Center for Oral History and Cultural Heritage, with Helen Rain on lessons her grandfather taught her. Check it out.
This is Mississippi Moments, produced by the Center for Oral History and Cultural Heritage at the University of Southern Mississippi and supported by the Mississippi Humanities Council. I'm Bill Ellison. Natchez native Helen Rain has witnessed many changes during her lifetime. She recalls taking walks with friends, stargazing, and her grandfather and the lessons he tried to teach her.
When I was a child, we ran all over Natchez. It was kind of characteristic for everybody to walk in those days. Grandfather would come home from work when we were children, and we'd all walk over to the river to watch the sunset. And grandfather was interested in the stars, and he would try to show us where the Big Dipper was, and we could find the North Star, but he would try to show us the other. Grandfather was stern, but thought it was important that children get educations. Grandfather used to think nothing had changed like it had changed in his lifetime because they got the telephone and the airplane and the automobile and all that. But I feel the same way because we've gotten such advances in medicine, we've gotten the computers and the televisions. It boggles the mind to me that man has advanced so much.
Bill Ellison hosts Voices of Our People World War II, a new podcast from Mississippi Moments, sponsored by the Mississippi Humanities Council. That's Voices of Our People World War II, wherever you get your podcasts.
That was your Mississippi Moment for today. Coming up, we have the pleasure of hearing from Vanessa Molden after a quick break.
Imagine being denied an apartment because of housing discrimination.
It's so wrong.
But who has the power to stop this?
You do. The law is on your side. If you've been discriminated against because of race, color, religion, sex, national origin, disability, or familial status, file a complaint with HUD. Fair housing is your right.
Use it.
Visit HUD.gov/fairhousing, a public service message from HUD and the National Fair Housing Alliance.
Never completely ready to adopt a teen.
For late nights writing English papers.
For your teen's music taste.
For dinners, where they talk more on their phone than with you.
For the first time, they call you Mom.
You're never completely ready to adopt a teen, and you can't imagine the reward.
To learn more about adopting a teen, visit adoptuskids.org.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Now, please give a warm Golden Eagle welcome to Vanessa. How are you?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
Awesome. Could you introduce yourself a little bit for everyone?
I am Vanessa Molden. Operations and Engagement Manager with the 6th Street Museum District in downtown Hattiesburg.
Awesome. Could you talk about Thursday's event, which is what you're here for?
Yes. Thursday, we are having one of our Black History Month event entitled Strike City, Mississippi, on strike, Strike City, Mississippi Freedom Labor Union. And this program will be about a group of black laborers who was working on a plantation in Leland, Mississippi, and they were not being receiving fair wages, and so they went on strike. And as a result of going on strike, they were kicked off the plantation. And so they end up having nowhere to go. They end up having to set up tents as far as housing. And not only did they set up those tents in Leland, Mississippi, they also went to Washington and protest, and they set up tents in Washington, D.C. And as a result of the attention that they received, they actually got funded from some community organizations to build permanent housing. And so because of that, they built their own little city, and they named the city Strike City. And this happened in June of 1965. And so we are inviting Dr. Robert Reese, who is a sociologist and a native of Leland, Mississippi, to come and tell us about that particular story, and also talk about the labor demands that the workers had during that time, and then also compare and contrast some contemporary labor issues that we deal with today.
Okay. Sorry. Let's see. Why exactly was Strike City created? Like, why exactly was it started, in your opinion?
Well, it was started because the black laborers didn't have a home. Mm-hmm. And so they, like I said, they were not being paid fair wages, and so they went on strike. And so when they went on strike, they were evicted off of the plantation that they were living on. And so instead of giving up, they persevered, and in the way in which they persevered, they built their own housing, and it was a small community, and so they named that community Strike City.
Okay. And you mentioned unfair wages. What would their wages look like today?
Well, at the time that they were, what it would look like today, well, I don't know. At the time they were being paid $6.50 a day. Which was different than their white counterparts that was being paid at that time. And so that was one of the reasons that they went on strike.
Okay. For those unfamiliar, could you explain what a sharecropper is, in case some people don't understand?
Well, sharecropping was a means for when after the Civil War, and you had blacks who were no longer enslaved. One of the things that they kind of like, I guess, a brokering chip for the blacks who were free at that time. They could stay on the plantation, and they would still work the lands and all of that, and then they would share the food that they had helped grow.
Okay. On Thursday evening, for the program on Thursday evening, there will be a screening of a documentary about Strike City. Could you tell us a bit about that documentary, if you know?
Well, the documentary is, you would actually get to hear from the individuals that actually, some of the black laborers that actually helped build Strike City. So it just tells their story. It's their oral history. It's a documentary of where they're sharing their oral history and what happened during that time in 1965.
Okay. Over time, what happened to the workers and their families that lived in Strike City?
Well, because they could not sustain economically their own city, so of course Strike City went away, and they moved to different places. Some stayed in Mississippi, and some left Mississippi.
Okay. Is there still a place in Mississippi that is like a landmark for Strike City, or is it more of just you knew it was there, or in the area?
From what I'm told by Dr. Reese, there is a little bit remnant of it. For those who are familiar with the story, they know where Strike City is. But from my understanding, there's no landmark specifically. But for those who know about it and lived in that area, they can tell where Strike City used to be. Dr. Reese actually shared with me that he went to church in Strike City. So it was a community as a part of Leland, Mississippi.
Okay. And you mentioned Dr. Reese a few times. Could you introduce Dr. Reese to everyone a little bit?
Dr. Reese, like I said, he is a native of Leland, Mississippi. He is a associate professor of sociology at the University of Texas at Austin. He received his undergraduate degrees from the University of Mississippi and received his doctorate degree from Duke University.
Okay. How do his studies relate to Thursday's program? How do his studies relate to Thursday's program?
His studies and his research is focusing on African American, the African American diaspora as it relates to enslavement and civil rights.
Okay. And of course, you're here during Black History Month. Could you share with everyone what is your personal, obviously, Black History Month is a huge thing, but what is your personal connection to Black History Month as its like event itself? Not an event. I'm trying to think of how to word this. Through what you've learned through your family and through school, what is your personal connection to Black History Month?
Well, I mean, of course, I'm Black. I'm African American, but what my connection is that it's not just Black history. And I know we hear people say this like it's like becoming a cliche that it's American history, and it is American history because Blacks, African Americans have came to this country some involuntarily, as we know, and have contributed in all facets of the success of this country. So African Americans, Blacks are a part of American history, and that's the way I see it.
Okay. And you were here from the
Sixth Street Museum District.
Thank you. What drove you to there to work and be part of it?
Well, actually, I worked here at the university. I've always worked in higher education, and I got an opportunity to go to the Sixth Street Museum District. That area is an area that is in the predominantly Black neighborhood, which was also a Black business district in its heyday. And in my role, I am responsible for telling those stories, preserving and presenting that African American life and culture here in Hattiesburg. And so I am an educator by heart. So anytime I have an opportunity to educate someone and increase their knowledge, that's my passion, and I enjoy doing that.
Awesome. Is that something you've always wanted to do since you were younger, or was that more of a as you got older thing?
I think as I got older, because I got my undergraduate degree here in business at USM in business education. Then I got my master's in PR and a concentration in advertising. So I've always wanted to be in education and engaged with the community.
Okay. What's your favorite thing about working at the museum district?
Learning the stories and hearing the stories. There are so many remarkable stories right here in Hattiesburg. Oftentimes when we look for our mentors or leaders, we're looking far off, but we have some great roots here in Hattiesburg, some great leaders here in Hattiesburg. One of our newest exhibits that we unveiled last year is our Generation Strong Inspiring African Americans of Hattiesburg commemorative wall. And that wall features over 107 African Americans who have made a significant impact, not only to the Hattiesburg community, but the world. And they're from, there's doctors, lawyers, pilots, professional athletes, judges, you name it. All types of professionals are featured on that wall, and they're from Hattiesburg, Mississippi.
Awesome. And with us being in the South, it is a very common thing that a lot of people in the South are very uneducated on certain things such as history. Do you see that often, especially with like white people in the community? Does it seem that people are very uneducated on topics such as this?
Well, it's not just unfortunately, it's not just white people. We have people who actually grew up here in Hattiesburg of all races that are not aware of the 6th Street Museum District. They're not aware that on 6th Street and Mobile Street that you have the historic Eureka School, which was a school built in 1921. It's the second modern brick building built in the state of Mississippi for black students. Also on Mobile Street is Smith Drug Company, the longest running black-owned business in Hattiesburg, built in 1925. And then of course the African American Military History Museum, which was a 1942 World War II USO for blacks. So we have work to do. And that's one of my jobs is getting out in the community and engaging the community and letting the community know what's available in downtown Hattiesburg.
Okay, awesome. What are some types of events y'all do? Because you just mentioned doing different things, getting out there.
We do, we have a range of events, and we try to plan events that appeal to all ages. We have, of course, the event that I'm here talking about today, and then we will, for the young students K through 12, we have Story Time with the Soldier, and that program is particularly for elementary students. On tomorrow, actually, we're having career chat with service members, which is for high school, and so we got a group of high schoolers who are coming to the African American Military History Museum, who will have an opportunity to sit down with veterans and service members and hear about their military career, but also how, when they transitioned from the military, how did they get a career in the civilian world. And then we hold our Christmas open house, where we have photos with Santa. We all have a Veterans Day. We will be launching Science Saturdays at Smith Drug Company, where we're educating the children in pre-K through middle school about STEM, science, math, and engineering and technology, but specifically focused on the medical field in honor of E. Hammond Smith, Charles Smith, and Grover Smith, who were family members who owned a pharmacy, a doctor's office, and a dentist. So we do a wide range of activities where we try to engage the community.
Awesome. What's your favorite event that you've done so far? Or a few?
Oh, there's a lot we have done. Well, I guess a couple of them would be when we opened Smith Drug Company as a museum. We did a series called Pioneers in Medicine, and what that series was, it was just telling the story and introducing a lot of people in the community to E. Hammond Smith, James Cohen, who were both pharmacists, Charles Smith, who was E. Hammond Smith's brother, and then Grover Smith was the son of Charles Smith, and then they had two other brothers who went on to be medical doctors who practiced in California and Cleveland, Ohio. So that was one of my favorite events. And then anytime that we can do events for our veterans where we're showing appreciation for them, those are my favorite. For our 15-year anniversary, we had an Armed Forces block party where we had live music, and we invited our veterans and service members to come and just have a good time and hang out at the museum with their family.
Okay, thank you. Where can everyone find any type of information about I struggle with it so much, 6th Street District Museum?
They can go to 6 spelled out, 6thstreetmuseumdistrict.com.
Okay.
And you will see all of the facilities that are a part of the 6th Street Museum District, and then you'll also be able to see some our upcoming events.
Okay, awesome. And this event for Thursday is Thursday. What time is it at?
It is at 5:30 at the historic Eureka School at 410 East 6th Street. And it is open and free to the public, and food will be served.
Awesome. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap this up?
No. The only thing I would like to add, we would love for Southern Miss students to come and see what we have available in the district. We have internships as well as volunteer opportunities, and so we'd love to have a conversation with you and explore the opportunities that we have that may be of interest to students here at Southern Miss.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you for coming here today. It's been great having you.
Thank you for inviting me.
Of course. Coming up, we've got Dr. Matthew Casey on the renaming of the Gulf of Mexico.
The Gulf of Mexico's name has been changed to the Gulf of America, which has caused outrage and confusion around the world. Dr. Matthew Casey explains more about the origin of the Gulf of Mexico's name.
Was the Aztec Empire. The people who lived in the Aztec Empire referred to themselves as the Mexica. And that's the origin of the name Mexico that we use today. And because that was such an important place for the Spaniards, that was a point of reference. And so that body of water that leads directly to this area, it was logical to call it the Gulf of Mexico.
Internationally, others outside of the United States may think of this as an inclusive deal.
People in Latin America often use the word America to refer not to the United States, but to every country in the hemisphere. And so if you leave the United States and you say America, people who are listening to you don't automatically think of the United States. If they're going to talk about the United States, they'll say the United States. And so by changing the name to the Gulf of America, some people who hear that might think of that as actually a more inclusive term and less about the United States than it probably was intended.
The U.S. geographic name system has yet to make the change. Until then, the name the Gulf of Mexico will remain. Stephanie Perez-Munoz, SMTV.
Thank you for listening to Southern Miss Today on Southern Miss Radio. We're thankful for Carl Wilson, our audio engineer, and Gabby Collier, our film producer, for keeping this bird soaring. We especially want to thank our program director, Adeline Fields, our audio producer, Cadence Renfro, our booker, Austin Flores, and our general manager, Dr. Martin, as well as our lovely guest today, Vanessa Molden. That's all for today on Southern Miss Radio. Thank you for listening. Remember, fly, eagle, fly. I'm your host, Abby Buzagard, signing off.